Hi and welcome to an episode of Careers After Corona, our special series here on Edex Live in association with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. A lot of parents today are very worried about what their children are doing online. It's a period of tremendous worry because exam results aren't out, colleges haven't finished their portions, school kids have had an extended vacation, and nobody quite knows what the world is going to look like on the other side of this pandemic. Now, if you're a parent who's also worried about whether your kid is getting the right kind of education or is learning enough online, especially through all of these courses that you're finding, whether it's Coursera, whether it's Edex, whether it's Harvard, the options are unlimited. But is your child really getting to know what they need to know online? That's a question that a lot of people have today. So we decided to ask somebody who's extremely clued in on what parenting should be, can be, and could be aspirationally. Today we have with us on the show Professor M.S. Krishnan Kutty, who's the chairman of Career Competency Development and Corporate and Industrial Relations at Amrita University. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Professor Krishnan Kutty has pioneered a concept and has been a part of building what he calls Parenting 4.0, which is part of Amrita's larger philosophy of engineering and education 4.0, I'm guessing. And so we decided to ask him what he thought was the need of the hour when it came to parents allowing their children to go wild digitally during this extended lockdown. So Professor, tell us, with all of this additional usage of digital tools, whether it is online courses, whether it's using apps like Zoom, there are 100 digital conferencing and learning apps out there, right? With all of this happening, is your child actually learning something that is even remotely equivalent to what they would learn in a classroom?
I don't think so. I think if you really compare an online learning as well as a classroom learning, it's got a vast differences. I would never say that learning from a class is equal to learning from home, but what really matters is that one example of mine would clear all your doubts. Every house, whether whatever religion one is, whether you're a Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Sikh, whatever religion you are, every house will have one prayer hall or a puja room, whatever you call it. We all pray the Almighty every day. But then the real praying comes when you go to a temple, when you go to a church, when you go to a gurudwara, when you go to a mosque. So if somebody asks me, if there is a God within yourself that's in your house, why do you go to a temple? Why do you go to a church? Why do you go to a mosque? I mean, you get the answer out of it. So if you call school as a temple of learning, the process of going from morning till the end, maybe by 4:30, it's an experience and an entertainment by itself. There is no comparison absolutely whatsoever between an online learning at home and a classroom learning. It is totally different. Because you yourself can, if you are a child, I'm sure your son or a daughter, the time he is woken up by the mom, right? In a lot of hush and bush, waking up itself is a big task, and bringing them, getting them ready, making breakfast and lunch for them, pushing them to the school bus. The school bus carries them. The type of journey they go through, maybe 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 1 hour time. The child experiences the friendship, the comradeship, and then get on the prayer, the first period, second period, break, lunch, then the afternoon classes, then the PT classes, then the groupism, wooing somebody, making fun of somebody. Oh, that's a total experience, Mr. Daniel. I don't think there is any comparison of a child learning at home through online and a child learning going to a school and attending to the teacher. So, yes, I'm not saying the learning doesn't come through online. Necessity is the mother of invention. But I always tell the parents not to panic. Not to panic. I mean, I've seen in most of the cases the parents panic. There is no confidence among the parents. The dad and the mom are totally worried. And they put their children also more worried than themselves sometimes. So my first advice, my first suggestion, my first request is, as a parent, please understand what is this COVID-19, what is this pandemic, what is this virus all about. You learn yourself. I feel that there's nothing to worry about it, first of all. because this is something common like a chicken box. There's nothing, I know there are so many things being spoken on media, social medias, and within friends, within chats, right? In Facebooks, WhatsApp, a lot of things are being spoken, Mr. Daniel, and the parents are put into a lot of confusion, and those confusions are passed on to the children. So since you asked me this first question, I said, look, there is no comparison between learning from home and learning from the classroom. But before you get into the next question, I would like to tell all the parents not to panic. It's a virus, and it's not that within next 3 months or 6 months or 1 year it's going to vanish. It's going to be there. And I was reading one of the articles by the WHO, that is Swaminathan. She mentions that this is going to be here. She's the chief scientist of WHO, and she mentions that this pandemic, this virus is going to be there not just for 2 years and 3 years. It's going to be about 4 to 5 years, and that's something gruesome for us to hear from a chief scientist like her. So what she said is true. If you go back to the history, if you look at 1918, it took about 2 years that pandemic to get away from us. And if you go back 1889, the first pandemic, it took almost 5 years. So there is no certainty, and nobody can assure that this pandemic is going to vanish. It's not going to happen that way. So I think let's build up the confidence in our children through preparing them to face this virus in the next 4 to 5 years. And how do we do that? If you go ask me one more question, I could come back to you.
Professor, you talked of course about how there's a glut of information on social media, there's a glut of information on the media, there's so much going around, there's news, there's fake news, there's a bunch of rumors that sound so absurd, and yet people are forwarding it on WhatsApp. Today that is an epidemic almost. But what's happening through all of this is a lot of parents sort of tend to read something here, they read something there, and they keep telling the children, don't go talk to the neighbors, don't go out and play. I don't think you should be, even talking to people without wearing a mask. Now, some of this is based on hard scientific fact, and we know this. But according to you, in a child's natural development, what do you think a parent should be worried about when you look at a child's natural life, whether it is study, whether it is play, whether it's classroom, whether it's something as simple as just bonding? You mentioned all of this. What do you think a parent should be worried about, and where do you think they should draw the line?
See, currently the parent must be worried on one aspect. How do I make my child? How do I make my child, transform my child to welcome this virus so that the virus doesn't attack him or her? It's an invader by itself. So I would suggest, how do you immune your child towards this? I think you should have heard, many of us would have heard about, social quotient, intelligent quotient, but I would say emotional quotient, but I would certainly bring in a new quotient which is called an adverse quotient. How does your child react to this adversity? The life is not going to be the same what we faced in the last maybe 20, 30, 40 years of ours, in the last 4 decades. It's going to be totally a change, a transformation from what it was and what is going to be in the future. So the life is not going to be same. So my understanding is, as a parent, instead of worrying on a longer term, it is suggested that make your child immune to it. How do you make your child develop physically and mentally? When I say physically, there are so many talks on what should be fed to your child to make him fit, to get himself immune. Now, if you look at the history of this particular pandemic, why did so many people die in US, die in UK, die in Italy, die in France? Because their body was not immune to it. But if you look at an Indian child can survive any adversity because they are not as soft-natured as what you find children abroad. So my understanding of things, and my suggestion and my request and my advice, even to the extent of instructing the parent, please immune your child. Feed them lots of vegetables, feed them lot of, leaves. I'm not saying the leaf, whatever leaves you can, the green leaves you can feed them. Make them exercise every day, because it's in the last 2 months that you would have found your child sitting at home. In fact, they must exercise for at least 1 hour. If you're not able to move out, if you're in an apartment, make them climb those stairs. If there are no stairs, put a music at home, let them dance for half an hour to 45 minutes. The physical fitness is what makes a child immune to any sort of virus. So make your child immune through physically fit. The second is mentally fit. Of course, the mentally fitness can be the mom, dad, the parent could play a chess with him, and you could probably look at making your child do those sudokus in those newspapers. Make your child every day, whether it's in 10th, 11th, 12th, first standard, second standard, give him a mathematical sum. What I mean, give him a mathematical problem, let him solve the problem, one problem every day. Whether he is an art student, a commerce student, solving a problem makes your brain function well. You make your brain stronger, so you become mentally stronger. So you have a lot of whole brain exercises. I can just show you one exercise. If your child is able to do this, it becomes that both sides of the brain becomes stronger. Because you need the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere's work. So this is the exercise, one exercise. The other exercise could be this, could be this, could be this, could be this. So when you make your child, and of course, there is one more thing which I would suggest the parents. One more. Yeah, you don't try it now. You don't try it now here. You don't try it now. It very clearly proves, I'm trying to make our children mentally stronger. You have these cubicles, make them play the cubicles. You have those video games, make them play those video games. These are those immune factors which will make your child a confident child. So when you make your child confident in terms of mentally fitness, in physically fitness through a lot of exercises, through certain intake of food. I mean, we talk about junk foods. Daniel, don't mistake me. Junk foods you can still have, but more of into, a diet meal which will resist those invaders, those sort of virus to get into your body. So the next 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months, a parent's focus must be on how do I make my child so immune that the invader will have no guts to attack my son or a daughter, nor myself. So that is very important. The second worry our parents must look at the future of our children. Maybe your child is in maybe 10th standard or 8th standard or plus 2 or whatever standard one is. The future need to be a bit worried, because we talk on economy, how is it going to shape? You're not talking about the Indian economy, you're talking about the world economy, and we talk about Indian economy in terms of a minus growth or a zero growth or a 5% growth. Everything is uncertain. We only talk through predictions. No, but every prediction could be uncertain. But I would say that even before this pandemic, this virus came into the world, the Indian economy was going through a sort of a depression, right? It was depreciating, and it is time for us to think the future of our children is going to be, volatile. Nobody can predict our children's future. And with this, it is going to add more fuel into the fire. So my request is, a bit of a worry must start on all of us, and we must be able to find out the strengths of our children through, like for example, when you talk about the strength of our children, and that strength must relate to the career of or the job what he's going to pick up when he completes his degree. But how do you find out the strength? We from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, you can probably, the parents who listen to me, it's called mychoicemyfuture.com/Amrita. 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 It's a psychometric test where it helps you to decide which are the areas your child is stronger. Based on the strength, today you must decide the future of our children. Now, why I'm saying the future of the children, the robotic tomorrow is going to be a STEM. It's going to be science, technology, engineering, mathematics is equal to computer science. It's going to be a STEM, and it's going to be a VUCA world. So our parents today must decide that my child's strength is this is what he's going to be in the future, and the industry what he's going to choose is going to flourish. And I'm sure when it's going to take a sort of, V factor or a U factor growth, in the next 5 to 10 years, whatever comes down will move up. So in my opinion, being an economist myself, I feel whatever will fall down in terms of the demand and supply ratio, a time will come in the next 5 to 10 years that it'll certainly move up. So whether you take, today's demand would be only on healthcare. I mean, whatever you touch, the healthcare is going to boom in the next couple of years. But that doesn't mean other industries are not going to be. People talk about travel industry is going to hit. People are going to say gyms may not be there. The airlines going to hit. It's all maybe for 1 or 2 years. In the next 5 years, if your child is in, let's say, 7th or 8th standard, there is no harm in making him a pilot. You don't sit saying that the airlines industry is taking a hit, so don't become a pilot. Don't look at today, but look at what's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years. And that is the advice which I give you. The immediate requirement is to make your child immune to this horror or a terror virus. And secondly, on a long term, please get that predictability test done or a psychometric test done in your child. Decide his career based on the strength, not by what your relation says or what your neighbor's son does. And based on that, find out the industry, what it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Don't look at the industry today. I'm sure today things would change maybe in the next 6 months to 1 year to 2 years. Again I repeat, what falls will get up. Today, the demand for a particular car may not be there, but then in the next 3-4 years, the demand come back. So don't look at and decide on your child's future, what's happening today, but then what's going to happen in the next 5 years based on the statistics and facts and figures, what is available. So this is my short-term advice and a long-term advice to my dear parents. Over to you.
That's a really nice roadmap that you've drawn for parents. When this lockdown ends and people start getting back to their lives, do you think that parents would have learned something in learning to listen to their kids or knowing more about their kids, or do you think this lack of focus will sort of push things back to the way they were?
See, I think as you rightly said, it's a blessing in disguise that the parents are able to spend a longer time, almost about 60 days now, the children, the son, daughter with the parents. In fact, you learn a lot by watching. If you really ask me, a parent today able to watch their children 24 hours, which was probably maybe on a Sunday, or even on a Sunday, the dad goes out, the mom is busy with cleaning up the houses, But today, 24/7, the parent is able to watch their children's activities from morning till evening, from evening till next day morning. So, there is a lot of learning from the children to the parent and from the parent to the child. So I think, in my opinion, it is the time for a parent to watch, right? He or she needs to watch what the child is doing, what time is he getting up, especially when you give the internet to him along with a laptop or even a smartphone. You must be watchful about your son or a daughter, what exactly is seeing. In fact, if you ask me, it is not correct. It is not at all advisable. I won't say it is not correct. It is not advisable for a child to look at a small screen for more than 20 to 40 minutes. Maximum half an hour, I would say. Okay, leave half an hour, you can give them 40 minutes. But here is where, Mr. Daniel, you're asking a child to look at a screen, a smaller screen for 3 to 4 hours, and that would probably damage the eyesight. It could damage the brain cells like neurons also. It's dangerous. So I think here is where a lot of advice have to come. Advices have to come from the parent to the child. Look, whether what he or she is doing is right or wrong. There are a lot of people who get on to, there is something called a radiation from the smartphone, which is also dangerous. It could decay the neurons over a period of time, and that's where, as you get older, over 60, over 70, you forget Alzheimer, dementia, All these diseases come because of your neurons get detached each other. It keeps decaying. What I'm trying to say, a proper advice from a parent by watching him from morning till evening as to how long a child is spending on the smaller screen. It has to be on a break. It cannot be a continuously. If we advise the children, don't be on a WhatsApp for more than, let's say, half an hour. But the child doesn't listen. But if a father or a mom sees, the parent sees that son is spending almost 7 to 8 hours on the smaller screen, that's going to really affect his eyesight and his brain. So these are, and that's number one. Number two, the other watchful thing, are they watching the right things on the screen? Today you have a lot of, I don't like to open out, but there are so many such things happening. You can go to YouTube and see whatever you're not supposed to see. So I would suggest that before you watch the children from morning till evening, what they do, a mom and a dad, that's a parent, must know what are the apps available on a smartphone. They must be smarter. They must be able to operate these apps better than the children. The children will listen to you if the mom knows better than the son and the daughter. The moment the son and the daughter feels that my mom doesn't know how to operate except for a smartphone, except for receiving the call and making a call to dad, she knows nothing, no child is going to listen to the parent. So my advice, before you watch the children, be thorough as to how you should use a laptop, how you must use a smartphone. Then your child must know, my mama, papa knows how to use a smartphone. The moment your child knows your ignorance, illiteracy, lack of knowledge on the smartphone as well as on the laptop, they will take advantage. Be watchful on that. Be watchful on that. I have seen a lot of children getting spoiled by this because the mom and dad do not know what exactly is being watched by a child. Monitor them on a periodical basis. Don't go do a policing job, but be with them, spend a lot of time with them. When they watch something, be with them and ask your child, you've been watching this for such a long time, what were you watching and what did you get out of it? So I think a process of questioning and answering between the child and the parent. It's not just watching the child, but it's a questioning and answering between the parent and the child, which would certainly make a parent believe that my child is on the right track. So please, parents, be watchful, not on the child, be watchful on what they are doing. Yes, over to you, Daniel.
Quick follow-up question. Is there an actual ideal age, for, say, a teenager to get a smartphone or even a toddler to get access to, any device? Because today, we see a lot of parents, just giving their children their phones, putting on some cartoons on YouTube or just giving them a game to play, because it's the easiest way to keep them occupied and keep them quiet, because very often we find that parents just need a little bit of relief here and there, and honestly nobody can fault them for it. But looking at it from your perspective, from a psychological perspective, from a long-term perspective, from a training perspective, from a concentration perspective, is there an ideal age that you recommend?
See, today what happened, you said it rightly. When you travel by train, when you are sitting with a mom who's got a child of, let's say, 1 year, 2 year, the moment the child cries, there's a mobile phone given to that particular child. Child watches some videos and then goes to sleep. But Danny, if you look at yourself and myself when we were kids, when you cried and when I cried as a baby, the mom used to put us in the cradle, right? And then, la, ra, 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 make us sleep. But today the mothers are preoccupied, right? And the easiest way, as you rightly said, to make a baby calm is to give this particular, it's a dangerous thing. In fact, one of my friends who is a doctor, who is a child specialist said, the child up to 3 years must not even look at a screen. Forget a television, forget a small screen. Even a television of 21 inches, the child must not look at it. Because that's up to 3 years the time when the child's brain starts slowly developing. So there must not be any distraction by looking at a particular focus that's on the screen. So the doctor's advice, who is a friend of mine, says, not the question of giving a mobile to a child, but don't even take a little baby up to 3 years in front of a screen. And mind you, up to the age of 12, maybe I'm wrong today, that A child is permitted to use a mobile phone, maybe, as I rightly said, maybe 45 minutes to 1 hour. Beyond that, it's going to certainly spoil the parts of your body, right, which I mentioned to you earlier. And of course, even for us, I'm sure you must be in the age group of maybe 30 to 40. I'm in the age group of 60 to 70. It's also dangerous for us to spend a lot of time looking at the small little screen. And it'll be very clear from my side. And let me tell you, the children who are using this regularly non-stop, right? I mentioned regularly non-stop by the age of 30. And not only that, looking at the screen, putting those earphones, that's dangerous. That's dangerous for your life also. People fit this crossroads, cross railway crossings. It's very dangerous, and more dangerous if you put those earphones and keep watching this from an age of 5, by the age of 30, I'm sure our child, son or daughter, will approach either an ENT or an ophthalmologist. He is going to spoil his ear, he's going to spoil his eyesight. So my advice, since the future is maybe in the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, we are going to have, instead of studying from school, in my opinion, it's going to be home study. We need to limit these type of watching on those small screen into those huge screens. Each house must have a huge screen, and the process of learning must move from a smaller smartphone or a smaller, what I would say, laptop screen to a huge screen like you find in home theaters. You have home theaters. It should move that. Otherwise, we are going to spoil the health of our children. That's my advice to the parents. Please slowly move out, if it is affordable, instead of showing your child those lessons of history, chemistry, biology, economics on a smaller screen. If it is affordable for a parent, it's immediately advised to go in for those huge screens where the clarity will be much more, the understanding will be much more, and you will certainly be helping the child for not going to a doctor at the age of 30 for the eye problem and the ear problem. Over to you, Daniel.
You brought up you used a very unique phrase. You said, ask the right questions. When you were referring to parents, you said, ask the right questions. Now, here's my question. When we look at online behavior that students are exhibiting these days, and you know that there are so many webinars and programs that are going on, several of the studies have shown that students start at a high, and then the numbers sort of go down, and then it goes down and it hits an all-time low. Now, these are just the numbers of the participants. However, psychologists tell me, though there are no established studies yet, that after a 6 to 7 minute time frame, it is a downward graph of concentration with the students. Very often they start to tune out at 5 to 6 minutes, and some of them said that they wouldn't be surprised if after the 10-minute mark they keep the webinars active, because I believe you get certificates at the end, but most of them just open up a new tab and they start doing something else. So the question here is, what is it that a student can do to be self-disciplined? Is there a way to actually ensure that you don't get bored, that you don't tune out, that you stay at least to a level focused? And second, is there something that parents can do to pick up on this behavior and maybe help their kids be a little more focused when it comes to online learning?
I think you are 100% right in what you mentioned about a lot of talks on the webinar. I'm talking to you in terms of online teaching and learning process, where it involves the teacher as well as the students. Now, this is something new. This is not like Zoom was not known to many, maybe a couple of months back. But today, 50 to 60, even more, 70% of the people know what is Zooming. So, what I would like to mention here is that from the point of view from the teacher and from the point of view from the student, both need to be disciplined. See, it is not easy for a teacher from a classroom management sitting with 40 students conducting a class. Is totally different when she comes or he comes in front of a camera and then addressing 40 students who are not present there. So I've gone through few of those process of teaching, learning. A teacher extremely good in communication, exemplary in her teaching process, but when it has come to online teaching in front of the camera, she fumbles. So when I look at the lens, which I'm not used to, I fumble. So I think there is a discipline, there is a lot of practice and training which need to happen from the teacher's point of view. It will take time. You can't just, I've seen some parents talking ill about the teachers, which is totally wrong. I mean, they say, this teacher, oh my God, she doesn't know vocabulary, she doesn't know how to pronounce, she doesn't know the subject. It's easy to tease and make fun of our teachers, which I'm totally against. Because I have seen a lot of teachers whose knowledge is far, far beyond an imagination. But when it comes to teaching online, I've seen teachers fumble. So you must give some time for our teachers to get themselves used to this new process of teaching online. Because I could feel nervous. I may be a good orator on a stage. I could address 2,000 people. But when it comes to film shooting, where I find few people there in a room with a camera focused on to me with a lot of lights, I could fumble. So I think there is the parents must realize, number one, that the teachers must be given time for them to get used to this online teaching. That's one part of it. And how can a teacher, having experienced speaking over a camera, having used to it and experienced, she can probably make an operation procedure, SOP, standard operating procedure. In fact, she must announce to the students saying that this is the topic that she is going to address from 10 to 10:45. In the classroom, all the 40 students assemble, sit on the seats, and then the teacher comes in. I'm sorry, the procedure has to change where the teacher has to be present at 10:55 and exactly at 11, she could take an attendance. She could say, hey, Sheila, Bhaskar, Suresh, Ramesh, one attendance has to go. And she should interact with the students. That's more important. If you don't interact with the students, not orally, at least through chat, saying that, look, are you able to hear me? Are you able to understand? Come on, Ramesh, tell me, what did you understand? I think then is the time where your students will not leave. For example, if I'm attending an online class for 40 minutes in mathematics, right? Trigonometry is being taught. I leave after 15 minutes and the teacher asks me a question. Hey, Krishnan, tell me, what did you understand about trigonometry? And I don't answer, which means I'm not there. So I think it is more interactive session between the teacher and the student would make the student sit there and then learn what is being taught. So I think the creation of interest must be from the teacher to the students. And the students must be told by the parents, look, you are learning because of these reasons. If you ask anybody, what do you want to be in life? I want to be a doctor. What do you want to be in life? I want to be an engineer. You scientist, you aerospace engineer. There are a lot of ambitions, lot of dreams, lot of milestones, lot of targets which our children are fixed in their mind. But when it comes to learning, they don't learn because they think that they can become a doctor without learning. No. So the parents' main first initiative must be that you cannot clear your NEET unless you sit and learn. So learning is the minimum requirement to make your dreams really happen. I think that is the push from the parent side. The parents also could be there. Why not? The parents could sit along with the child. Why does the parent allow a child to go out? So I think first of all, the parents must stop talking ill about the teacher who is for the first time making an attempt to teach through online. Encourage the teachers rather than discourage them. Encourage your child that yes, these things happen. It'll be boring for you because your friend is not sitting there. The teacher is not asking somebody to stand on the bench. So, these atmospheres will never come on an online learning. But then you need to sit and listen and learn. Only then you can make your dream come true. So I think the discipline part must be there from both the teacher as well as the students. Unless you make your child understand the purpose of learning, you need to sit and listen and learn. Only then you can make your dream come true. So I think the discipline part must be there from both the teacher as well as the students. Unless you make your child understand the purpose of learning, the purpose of learning is not for getting marks. The purpose of learning is for you to achieve your ambition in your life, your dream job in your life, your targets in life, and to live your life happy. And this can never happen unless you either learn online or learn classroom, whatever it is. The learning has to happen. And today, the necessity is that you sit at home and learn, concentrate well, otherwise you will miss your bus in your life.
Actual learning beyond the classroom, beyond the academics, is often, peer learned, is often in relationships, it's often psychological, it is social, it's behavioral development, it's a whole lot of things that you actually mentioned this a little earlier, right from the process of leaving your house, from getting ready to going to school, to having lunch, the whole lot of learning that occurs, which are all life lessons. Now, in this pandemic, and as a result of how people are talking about how classrooms and colleges and school buses and cafeterias and all of these are going to completely change. They're probably not going to be the same, as you mentioned, for at least 2 to 3 years. Now, for somebody who is just going to come to college, and this is probably the most crucial part of their lives, where they're probably going to learn the most important social skills that will take them forward in their careers and their lives. How bad do you think a loss it's going to be? And when this continues, when you don't have the right kind of social learning, what is it that parents or even peer groups can do to take care of that void?
The friendship is what they really miss from the school to the college. So I'm sure you have to say goodbye to these type of gatherings, as you mentioned, the social gathering in the next couple of years and 3 years. I'm sorry. I mean, it's certainly a sad thing to even imagine that our children are not allowed to be in a group. But if you go to a school, I've been to schools in many occasions the last 12, 13 years, and the groupism, no child walks alone. Everybody is in a group of 5, 10, 15 and 20. What a fun. All those fun will move out. And it's going to really hit the mind of our children. It's going to put our children in a depressed situation. And the parents have a big role to play in certainly, you can't carve it away, you can't just throw away those depressions, but as a parent can certainly support in many ways in building a child with positiveness. And one of those would be, please allow your children to do what they want to do or what they enjoy doing. Like, for example, if they enjoy to spend some time on Zoom with their friends, please allow them. The parents must be a little more flexible in giving some allowance to your child to do what they want, with some monitoring, of course. Allow them to do what they want to do, not that allow them to do what you want them to do. So I think it is slowly changing, and be more flexible. That is number one. Number two, you have enough time to spend with your children. You don't tell me that today you ask anybody, most of them are free. But otherwise, about 2 months back, each of them are busy with a lot of activities. When you have so much of time to spend with your child, please spend it. And spending time with your child is not sitting and singing, is not taking your child out for a jolly good ride. The spending time, I want my parents to listen to me very carefully. Spending time with a child is doing what they want you to do. For example, if your daughter enjoys playing cricket or your son enjoys playing chess, please, for half an hour to 40 minutes, play chess with them. What I mean to say, spending time, most of us take it for granted. Spending time is taking your child for a movie, getting them an ice cream at home, right? Or sending them to maybe the relation's house. Not that. The real spending time of a parent with their children is doing what your child enjoys and what your child wants you to do. And that is what, spend time with them. That is number two. Number three, you need to specifically have some timings. Let's say half an hour for WhatsApp, half an hour for Facebook, half an hour for video games. You need to have a timetable and discipline your child. right? Otherwise, when you discipline your child, what happens is, he tries to forget. His mind is not emptied. He knows what to do next hour. For example, if you say your child has to get up at 5 o'clock, do exercise from 5:30 to 6:30, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, he probably does prayers, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, he has his breakfast, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, he goes for online learning, 11 to 1 is a leisure for him, 1 to 2 is lunch. When you have a timetable, the child knows what exactly he or she is supposed to do the next hour. So when you don't plan the day for your child, or the child never plans the day for himself or herself, then the question of other thoughts coming into your mind. So the third advice to my parents would be, prepare a plan for them for the day. It can include anything. It can include even watching a movie for 2.5 hours, right, on Netflix, whatever you want. But planning is a must. And that planning would lead your child, your mind filled up. The moment your mind gets emptied, you think of your friends and other activities. And please, for heaven's sake, allow your child to be in contact with the friends. As you rightly said, in touch with the friends is nothing wrong. And I would say, when a child comes home, when your son's friend comes home, please don't react in such a way that your friend's son has already got, the virus attack. Those type of treatments, please avoid, which will put your child to further distress and depression in life. And that would be the 4 points which I would like to share with the parents to take it on.
Professor Krishnan Kutty, in conclusion, I just want to ask you one small thing. You touched very briefly upon the issue of depression. Now, this is a growing epidemic among Indian children. Of course, the number of studies that have been done in the US are much larger, and the statistics are much more widespread, where they talk about depression coming out of isolation, depression coming out of just being at home, depression just coming out of not having social behavior, not having social interaction. Tell me today, in an Indian context, as an Indian parent, what are some of the biggest signs that a parent can note, can spot, that their child is depressed in some measure, whether it's small or large?
See, I conduct a lot of parenting meet for my university, and the greatest problem the parents face today is distraction. This distraction leads to lack of concentration. So, moment a child from a level of concentration for the maximum concentration a child can be for maybe about 40 minutes to 45 minutes, not more than that. So that is why you see any periods in a school would be 40 minutes. So beyond 40 minutes, you can't force a child to concentrate. So as a parent, when you find the level of concentration is diminishing over a period of time, that my child could concentrate online for 40 minutes yesterday, today by half an hour he's off the hooks, he is not able to sit and listen. And next day it could be 25. So if there is a diminishing returns on the level of concentration, there is a problem. There is a problem. That's number one. And that can be noticed by a parent through your gestures, your facial expressions, your hand movements, the way you sit. So the body gestures can reveal the type of lack of confidence in your child. I have seen this, and a parent will say, like for example, a parent is the best judge to judge the child whether she or he is able to concentrate. That's how the first, as you rightly said, 10 minutes they'll be sitting like this. After some 20 minutes they'll be sitting like this. After some 30 minutes they'll be sitting like this. So the moment the gestures keep changing on a child, there is a lack of concentration and the child has started losing interest. And the second is distraction. However good, if you want to judge your child's concentration, even if there is something happening outside, the child will never hear those sounds because she or he is focused onto the particular topic what is being taught. So, when the concentration is, let's say, 90% on the teacher, the sounds surrounding will never be heard. That's why you go to a church, you go to a temple, the pujari or the father, the priest, whatever sound happens, the prayers keep going. the chanting keeps continuing. So I think that the moment your child turns the head because of a sound, the problem starts here. So the body gestures, the distractions, lack of concentration would be the signs that your child needs something else to bring him back to the online learning, or bring him back to those screens to get into that spirit or the interest in learning. Yes.
Pretty much sums up what we were asking, because if you spot any of these signs in your child and you think that he's distracted or even borderline depressed, well, you just heard it from Professor Krishnan Kutty. You need to get your child a little more attention and a little bit of help. Thank you so much for these insights, Professor. It's been truly wonderful talking to you. I really think that parents have got a lot to take away, and let's hope that we make it through this pandemic safe and as better parents.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Namaskar.
If you have any queries about engineering or would like to know about how to get admission, please leave a question in the comments below and we'll have faculty of Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham reach out to you. If you like the content of these videos, do feel free to like, share and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. All the best and have a great career. Stay safe.